You've heard me say it many times before. Current headlines do more to terrify than they do to clarify. What am I talking about? Let me show you. Hi, I'm Nick with the Iannitti Group. I just want to provide some context to all the kind of media buzz out there because it's really just kind of driving me crazy. And I really don't want you to trust any headlines without proper context. I recently saw this study and I almost lost my mind, right? This is a recent LendingTree consumer survey. 41% of Americans believe the housing market will crash in the next 12 months. That's not going to happen. 72% of them believe that the housing market will crash and think it's going to be as bad or worse than the 2008 housing market collapse. Not even close. 58% of the group expects the housing market to crash, say they're going to postpone any housing related changes at all. They're not going to do anything. They're just going to sit on their hands. That is absolutely ridiculous. Why do these people think this? Well, they keep seeing headlines like this. This is an article from Yahoo Finance, right? 15 years ago, the housing market crashed under similar circumstances. Is that true? Well, let's look at the circumstances from 15 years ago. It's actually totally false. So whatever that author who wrote that article, I don't know, maybe they're on drugs or maybe they just didn't take the time to look at the data, which is really frustrating, right? When we look at the last housing cycle 15 years ago, job cuts, 8 million. Today, none. Right? Look at subprime loans, super prevalent. We knew they were everywhere. Today, there's virtually none. Look at new construction back then, 7.65 million units. Today, only 4.6 million, right? And the inventory that was on the market, 4 million homes. Today, there's about a quarter of that, okay? Mortgage delinquency, 10%. Today, it's only 3.6%. And this is huge. Home foreclosures, 4.6% back then. Today, it's 0.6%. This current market is nothing like 15 years ago, right? When we look at home price forecasts here for 2023, actually, when we take the average of all the talking heads out there other than me, we're looking at about 0.3% of an increase, okay? Keep in mind it's nationwide, so there are going to be some markets out there that get hit, that may have a little bit of a dip. There are going to be other markets that are going to gain more than that 3%. So we know that, but as far as a crash, that's just not going to happen. And as far as foreclosures, yeah, they're up, but they're nowhere near they're near record lows basically, right? Look at this, 88,000. You're talking about, yeah, they're up from 2021 when we had, this moratorium, but when you look at where they're at back to 15 years ago, it's nothing like what we had then, okay? So you need to keep that context in. What is going on in the market? Has the market shifted? Absolutely. And this is why, right? We know that mortgage rates essentially doubled in 2022. That has never happened before in the history of mortgage rates, right? And that has absolutely dampened buyer demand, okay? However, we've talked to some chief economists over at Bright MLS. They think basically, buyers may be tempted to kind of time the rates and everything. Remember, you can't time the market. It's time in the market, right? If I could time the market, trust me, I'd be a billionaire. It's not possible, okay? Lawrence Young, chief economist, NAR, super smart guy, said basically a return to a normal spread between the government borrowing rate and the home purchase borrowing rate will bring the 30-year mortgage rates down to around 6%. We're kind of already seeing this, right? If you look at the projections, we're looking at somewhere between the 6 to 6.5%. From about mid-November, we saw declines in the mortgage rate for about 7 weeks. It just kind of ticked back up a little bit. But I think what people really are looking for is some type of stability, right? When we look at the housing forecast, we know that home sales are probably going to be down this year compared to last year. Still not as bad as they were during the crash, okay? About 1 million more homes, about 20% more or so, okay? So that's, again, still not crash related. But again, Lawrence Young, thinks upcoming months should see a return of buyers as the mortgage rates appears to have already peaked and have been coming down since mid-November. That's true. They've kind of ticked back up a little bit right now, but I think, again, what buyers really are looking for is some type of stability in that rate, okay? But the flip side of the coin is, this is Mark Fleming, chief economist, First American, the housing market, once adjusted to the new normal of these higher mortgage rates, will benefit from continued strong demographic-driven demand relative to overall long-run shortage of supply. Again, back to supply and demand. You've heard me say it for years now in these videos, right? We need 6 months of inventory for a healthy market. We only have 2 months worth of inventory. That is still very much a seller's market. We just had this shift right now because basically buyers' affordability has been smashed with these higher rates. But as soon as we actually see these rates kind of stabilize, I think we're going to see buyers coming back. And actually, Doug Duncan, he's a senior VP, chief economist over at Fannie Mae, said from their perspective, the good news is that the demographics remain favorable for housing, so the sector appears well positioned to help lead the economy out of what they expect to be a brief recession. Okay, so keep in mind when we're talking about buyers, basically what we're talking about here is young millennials. Millennials are split in two groups: old millennials, young millennials. But 2 years ago, first-time buyers were about a third of all buyers. Last year, first-time buyers made up 45% of the buyer pool, and those are technically those young millennials. There's a lot of them coming in. They're a large group, and they're going to want to buy homes, start families, start to live their lives. So that's kind of what they're talking about as far as those demographic changes. So that's about it. Anyway, if you have questions about this, if you have some other things you've seen in the media and you don't know what to believe, whatever, just reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. And that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, who you choose to negotiate for you absolutely matters.